What's up? It's DisThunder's from the Fwoosh. I wanted to share a little something with y'all today. Actually, it's not very little at all. This is my custom B25 Mitchell. I built this in 2016, I believe, using a Lanard Toys Beast Bomber 1/18 scale. It's from the Core Elite line, kind of their G.I. Joe brand. But I did like a build diary on the website over the few months that I worked on it. It was a pretty fun project. It was pretty fun to share at the time. But I still really love getting this thing out and playing around with it. So, to summarize the B-25, no easy feat. This is a medium bomber that served with every branch of the United States Armed Forces and most of the Allies. It entered service in 1941 and saw service in every theater of the war as well. In fact, it has the distinct honor of being there at the beginning all the way up to the end, starting with the Doolittle raid on Japan, all the way up to the last days of the war in the Pacific, doing anti-shipping strikes. In addition to being a medium bomber, this thing flew with almost every variation of ordnance you can imagine. So, like mine here has 9 front-facing Browning M2 50 cal machine guns and 8 HVAR high-velocity rockets and 2 500-pound bombs on external wing loads, which I'll explain a little more in a minute. One of the most famous variants of the B-25 is the B-25J, where the entire nose was changed into basically an artillery battery with any variation of up to 8 50 cal machine guns to a 75mm cannon. These were used for gun runs and anti-shipping strikes. Now, B-25s did use external bomb racks for things like torpedoes and depth charges. Mine has 500-pound bombs on it because, unfortunately, I had to put the landing gear in the bomb bay to make it function. On a real B-25, those landing gear would be inside the engine nacelle underneath, but that just wasn't going to work for what I was trying to do. Now, similarly, I had to go with a single-seat canopy instead of the 2-seater side-by-side that it would be in real life, just because of the size of the figure. But if you were going with a 1/18 figure, that'd be no big deal. I did keep the light-up feature for the instrument panel. It just flickers green like that, but there was really no reason to take it out. Likewise, when we come around to the greenhouse, I had to go with just adding guns and ammo instead of having a bombardier's position. But being as this is a gunship variant, that's not really inaccurate. I had a lot of fun trying to pack this thing as full of period-appropriate accessories like vacuum tubes and switches and dials and stuff. I'm also particularly proud of this top turret I made. The bubble itself came from like a laundry freshener or something. But the interior will still hold a 6-inch figure, and I was able to sneak a few more details in there before I bolted this thing back together. And just by a stroke of luck, this turret is a really tight fit, and you have to kind of flex it to get it in, but once it's in, it sits snugly and it turns like it was made for it. I think I got all these 50 cals from like an RC plane accessory kit, and then I made like the flex boots for the guns to poke through out of like washers and whatever I could find. I'll be the first to tell you that is the wrong bee sting mount for the tail for this model B-25, but it was the best I could come up with, and I'm still pretty content with it. I was able to retain the opening feature here that gives you access to the middle of the fuselage. You could put a couple more gunners on those waist positions if wanted, and since I filled the bomb bay, I opted to fill that with like some extra fuel tanks for longer range or something. And it is possible to man that bee stinger back there. You can slide a figure back. I kept the spade grip mount on the 50 cal and everything so that you could have somebody kind of prone back there. A little earlier I mentioned landing gear. They came from a World Peacekeeper's F-18 Hornet. It sounds kind of crazy. But if I had mounted the rear gear underneath the engines like they should be, it would have been almost impossible to level this thing off. As it is, they're very sturdy, and I was able to kind of fare them over so they look like they're part of the plane. I'm pretty happy with them, even though it cost me a bomb bay. And it might sound kind of silly, but I'm really proud of the propellers. Here's a quick look at the underside and undercarriage, not something you usually get to see when I take pictures of it. And gives you a little closer look at the ordnance I was talking about and how those landing gear work into the body. And those HVARs, I think they were Mark 82 bombs from that same F-18. I just added some mechanical pencil tips. I sort of feel like every customizer has, to a degree, that once-in-a-lifetime project where no matter how bad they may want to or need to, they're never going to be able to go back and do it again, quite like they did it the first time. And my B25 is definitely that custom for me. I honestly don't know what the hell I was thinking when I started it. Believe it or not, it's not the largest vehicle in my collection, but I would probably call it the most intricate. And again, like I said, once in a lifetime, I couldn't even begin to source those parts again if I had to. So let's hope I never do. But as a lot of you guys know, I'm a big World War II guy, and the B-25 has been one of my favorite airplanes since I was a little kid. First got to see one at Hill Air Force Base. It's still there in the museum. If you're a Utah local, you owe it to yourself to make the trip, for sure. But I've always thought the B-25 embodied what made the American fighting man so inspirational. And they still take my breath away to this day when I see them. I think that's going to about wrap this one up. So thanks for coming by and watching. Hope it was fun, and hopefully maybe you learned something. Talk to you later.